Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity. I am Jan Jeremias, and I am here with my canine companion, Tonka, who is the love of my life, I have to say. So a little bit about me. I'm a trained scientist who began exploring holistic and alternative healing about 18 years ago. I began my journey with the use of essential oils and began exploring modalities such as Reiki, gentle massage, and other healing practices for pets and people. I'm the co-author of the top-selling essential oil book for pets called Spoil Your Pet, Practical Guide to Using Essential Oils in Dogs and Cats. And so today I am here with Bonnie. And I just want to tell you a little bit about her. But before I do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about this podcast. So this podcast is really about life with a pet. So it's how we navigate life and how pets influence us and how we influence them. But in addition, I cover other things like health issues and health practices and training tips and things like that. So it's a little bit about everything regarding pets. So today we have our lovely guest, Bonnie, and she is an insightful and enthusiastic speaker and trainer with over 7 years experience as a life coach. And she works with individuals, groups, and teams to help them rebuild their relationships with themselves and I love this, fall crazy in love with life. I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good to me. Bonnie is known for her breakthrough insights, unique perspective and mindset work, and communication style that shifts her clients and audience into a new consciousness that empowers them to create a more fulfilling life. And today we're going to talk about her pets and she's going to tell you how she manifested them and how they came in just in her life, just when she needed them. And I totally get that, because I always say my pets were given to me. Like, it wasn't like I went and they chose, like, they chose me versus me choosing them, and it was, the match is just perfect. So welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. I'm happy to be here. This is fun. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yes, me too. So why don't you talk a little bit about how many pets you had, and the first topic, which is manifesting pets, is how you and maybe talk a little bit about the word manifest itself.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 5 pets. They're all females. We have 3 cats and 2 dogs. Now, originally, I didn't want any pets, just to give you a little bit of background. I also have 3 children. They're all teenagers now, but we were in the military. So traveling with pets and the ability to travel spontaneously to go visit family, it becomes more complicated when you can't take the pet with you. So I had originally said absolutely no pets. We had moved, we had done a hardship duty tour in Korea. We spent some time there, and then we moved to the States. We moved to Tennessee. And I insisted to the kids, no pets. However, I had started my business, life coaching. I had started, studying universal laws, if you will, atoms and atomic particles, and how we can work with this energy and space around us to help bring in, if you will, the resources or things that you want or need in your life, which we refer to manifesting, making the invisible visible in our life. So my kids were really familiar with these things that I would teach, because I would often pull them into my whiteboard and say, okay, what do you think about this? Can you understand it? Because I want the information I share to be, in any level, of intelligence, for them to be able to understand in the most simplest way. So if my kids could understand it, then I felt that my audience, my clients, would also understand it. So turning invisible to visible was a topic I was highly focused on, which is process of manifesting. And can I just go right into how I shared, like
Ye-
how this happened?
Yes, yes. And I love that whole idea to me, of manifesting. The whole idea of what we think basically happens,
Right.
and that is positive and negative.
Yes. Yes. It's instructing the cells and the information, these empty packets, these atoms, everything around us. It's giving them instruction, if you will, kind of guiding them. Like I said, to bring this invisible thing, the cells, the information that we don't see, we're aware of because we can tangibly see the effects of it. But being able to work with it and to consciously work with it's a whole nother space that you don't necessarily learn in school, right? So I had been teaching my kiddos, um, basically turning invisible to visible.
So,
And my daughter, my middle child, was just begging me to have a cat. "Can we please get a cat? Can we please have a cat?" And I was adamant, no, 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 we're not having any pets. Well, her birthday was coming up, and I had come downstairs, and she was in the kitchen, and she had this laser pen. And I heard her talking, and she was like going making the, sounds and talking to this invisible pet. And I looked around the corner and I was just watching her. And the way she was playing with this cat that I thought for sure was in the kitchen with her, I was convinced she brought an animal in the house and I didn't know. And I'm watching her and I'm like, wait a second, there's no animal in there. And I asked her, "Sonny, what are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm manifesting my cat. I'm playing with it." And I was in my mind. So I teach it in my mind. I was like, no way. Doesn't work. So it doesn't work like that. Right. I had conditions that I wanted it to work on. And of course it had to be what was comfortable for me. Um,
of course.
right. It's a no pet. And the next morning, I'd come downstairs and she was doing the same thing again. And I thought, what in the world? Like this, I believe it. I teach this. This is going to work. The third day, she had done it again. And I kind of rolled my eyes and giggled at just the hopefulness and the belief and the determination and how interactive the tone of her voice and how playful she was with this idea of this imaginary cat that was so real to her that she was playing with. So she had gone and around the neighborhood giving out birthday invitations. And she came home and she had one left. And she said, "Mom, I know the kids next door are younger than me, but they might enjoy coming over and having cake and being a part of the birthday. Can I invite them as well?" I said, "Sure." She left and she came back about 5 minutes later with a kitten in her hands. And I thought, "What are you doing? What is this cat?" And she goes, "Mom, they're going to be out of town. Their cat had kittens, and the mom gave me this cat. And she said, your mom's okay with it. Can we give this kitty to you for your birthday?" And I didn't know how to actually respond, thinking there's no way. I said, "No cats. Oh my gosh, she has this cat. She did it. She followed through." And I messaged my husband, who was in New York at the time for military stuff, and he was just like, "Well, you can't say no, right? She's did what you told her would work. She followed through. It's here. What do you do?" And so this was the first pet of four more to come. And we called her Peppermint. So that was her favorite candy. My daughter's favorite treat was peppermint patties. But this cat did come at the right time because of the transition. My kids desperately needed this security space, right? Moving into a place of unknown. But Peppermint is still with us and has offered us so much comfort. Such a fun cat.
Well, I love that, just because you also, I mean, you didn't say no. I'm sure there are people out there that still would have said no, But it was kind of like, well, if I really am saying this is the way the world works, the universe works, like, how can I say no? Because basically then I'm not practicing what I preach.
Yes.
And so I really need to follow through with this and say, okay, well, for some reason, maybe that escapes me at this moment. I have to honor the fact that this has been brought, like this pet, this beautiful peppermint has been brought into our lives for a reason. And I think a lot of times things like that happen. Like I look at my dog that I had for many years and didn't totally understand why I mean, yes, I wanted a dog and, forever. And so I got her and she was the best. But I think it took me a long time to realize in some ways why she was like, why we were matched together. So sometimes I think those aren't very apparent to us right away.
Yeah.
But we just have to have faith that, or know that this is what's supposed to happen. So we have to go with it.
Yes. Yes.
So what was not pet number 2?
Well, pet number 2, my oldest daughter was very envious that little sister got a cat, and the oldest had been wanting a cat as well. And she had been at the park and playing, and for a while she had seen a cat. And I know because of our previous conversations, you can kind of relate to this experience. She had seen this stray cat that would come around at the park. And one day, her and her friends decided to go pick up the cat and knock on everyone's door around the neighborhood to see if it was their cat. And they had done this for 2 or 3 days straight. And she kept asking me, please, 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 please. And I said, no, 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 no. We already have more than what I want, not happening. And I was just adamant that it was going to be a no. And my husband was agreeing with me that it was going to be a no. And so it's like, you would also have to be able to convince your father. Well, I had gone shopping and I'd come home that evening. And when I came home, my husband had the cat in his hands. And I just knew in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, we have got another cat. And yeah, so now we have Forbes. This very, oh my gosh, she's so she's whiny. She's very specific. She likes things her way. She will climb under your comforters in bed and like curl up in a ball in your bedding and just try to. She's very particular. But my daughter, my oldest, had insisted that she'll get a cat too. And then there's the cat at the playground, and everyone said no, and Dad said yes. It was in his hands. I knew it. I knew it that minute.
That's right. You knew that at that moment, I can say anything I want, but it's not going to matter.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
so funny. I love always, to me, and as you describe both of, it seems like the cats have very different personalities.
Definitely.
And I always love, and that was one of the wisest thing. I mean, I'd never had multiple pets at a time, and I never had I think as a kid, sometimes I don't know, or at least it didn't maybe register for me right away. But as an adult, just this idea of how a friend of mine said to me, just remember when you get another pet, they're not identical. They're really unique and individual. And seeing that firsthand, like my 2 cats were extremely not related, a year apart, but such different personalities. It was remarkable. One was very cat-like, very aloof, kind of regal, would sit on the side. The other one was like in your face, like every single moment of the day, if it was possible, like right there, like pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me.
Yes.
And as lovely as he was, every now and then I'd be like, buddy, you got to give me a little space. You got to give me a little space. But he was adorable. But they looked very different and they acted very different. It was so hysterical. So you then ended up getting more after that.
I did. We 3 more followed that one. My son, he was pretty young at the time, but he always told me every boy needs a puppy. Every boy needs a puppy. And I I was like, okay, cats are one thing. You can change kitty litter and then give them a dish, and they can have the house for a few days by themselves and be good. Dogs are a whole different story. Absolutely not. And he had a stuffed animal dog, a big one, and he would sleep with it and he would talk to it and he'd carry it around with him now. And I'm absolutely not happening. Well, one morning, and it was either the end of the year, beginning of the year, but it was cold outside. The kids were waiting at the front door to get to the bus for school. They opened up the door, and this little puppy came running into our house. Suddenly, there's this puppy shaking at my feet in the hallway, and I'm like, get our home, stay here. And I'm adamant that the dog is not going to stay. It's the most beautiful dog, and my son just lit up with, oh my gosh, maybe when I come home from school, this dog might still be here. And he begged me, please let this dog still be here. And my husband took the day off of work to go to the vet, see if it had a, tracking chip in it. We had posted up on the internet that we had just found this beautiful dog that was so well mannered and behaved, and nobody claimed it. So this would be Lita, and she is still with us, and she's very special because she helps my son just as much as, and I'm going to say it out loud, helps my husband and the rest of us. And through trauma, one of the frustrating and challenging parts with any kind of trauma in your life is that you tend to resist love and connection, right? But the way to heal trauma is love and connection. So this dog holds a special space in my husband's life, and I believe it heals his young version of himself, really helping him to just allow this very, very close love and companionship. And for my son, he has had, it was more severe then, but really, really intense ADHD. And I really believe that Lita has also helped comfort him in his, compulsiveness and his anxiousness and everything that really comes in alignment with it. She's really brought this beautiful balance and space between my husband and my son. But we have Lita now as well.
Mhm. They are so amazing at healing and making us feel safe. As
Yes.
much as they rely on us for their safety, for the common staples of life, like food, water, like a shelter and all that, which to me is far, that's like just the tip of the iceberg to me of what we're supposed to provide for them.
Oh,
Obviously love, but they give us this feeling of, I don't know, that unconditional love that
mhm,
that we are just perfect the way we are. There's no
mhm.
judgment, so for your son, that beautiful gift that she gave him of just like, I'm here and you're okay.
Yes. Yes.
There really is nothing like that to me.
Mhm.
And I think once you have that with a pet, like I can't envision my life without a pet. I just don't see it. Think about it sometimes because obviously they pass away, but
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think I could. Like, I think I would always want that in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that pets have this really unique way of connecting at our soul level. They kind of just remind us of the unconditional love and peace that's available, that is, and being human on top of, if you will, or in conjunction with soul. The primal parts of us tend to get really loud and can be overwhelming. And I think pets just offer us that space to go back into a harmony with ourselves, even. And they offer that through their example.
Oh, absolutely. They are so in the present moment.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't, it's such a reflection, they don't
Yeah.
sit there and think about, or get on what I call the mental cul-de-sac. Like up here, the same idea or thought goes in your mind over and over and over and over again. And you
Yeah.
can't get off that sometimes. And
Mhm.
pets just, they know how to play, they know how to eat, they know how to be happy. It's just this kind of like true example of how really we're supposed to live.
Yeah, they do demonstrate that very well.
So let's just going to pull up.
Jen, I've
Yes,
shared how my kiddos have manifested, and
sure.
I actually manifested my cat as well. And I was called out on it because I actually didn't want to go back and realize what I had just done. Can I
Hmm.
share that really quick?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So my kids were starting to become more independent and playing more, and it's a little bit, I think, baby hungry, but we'd already decided no more kiddos. And I just wanted this toddler feeling around me. So I loved it when my kids were small and toddlers. It was exciting for me. It's my favorite time. Um, I woke up one morning, my husband and I get up nice and early. We were having coffee together, and I said, "You know what, honey? I want a female kitten, and I want her to be colorful, and I want her just to follow me around, and she just loves me, and she's my best friend." And I'm telling him all these things about this female cat that I wanted, but she had to be colorful. And later that day, my daughter and I had gone to the store, and just last minute, I decided to take a different way home, one that I never take home because it actually takes me out and away from home. And then, so it's off track. It's an inconvenience to take that way. But I decided for whatever reason, go ahead and turn and take this other way home. So I did. And we're driving through this neighborhood, and my daughter yells out, "Free kittens!" She points over, and I look at the sign, and I am like, "Oh, interesting. I had just said to your dad," and I told her about what I had said in the kitchen to him earlier that morning. And we get home, and she says, "Dad, Mom saw a sign for free kittens, and she told you about wanting a kitten, and she didn't turn around." And he says, "You didn't even stop?" I said, "No, I don't want any more pets." And this gave me this space to be like, do I actually want another pet? Is this what I really want? Or was it just something I was saying in that moment? He said, "Look, you can go ahead and go back. Just look, see if you even like the cats, or if you don't have to come home with one." Well, my daughter and I had gone back to the house, and the guy said, "Oh my gosh, could you see our sign? We've had it out here for about a week. Nobody stopped by. You're the first people." And he goes and he gets this crate and he puts it down, and he says, "These are the cats." I think there were about 7 of them. And all these gray and white cats came out. And there was like an orangish one. I don't remember, but they were solid colors or a little bit patchy. And all of a sudden, this very last kitten walks out, comes right in front of me. It's the only female cat of the litter, and it's the only calico looking cat of the litter. And she just sat there right in front of me. And he says, "Well, I think she picked you." And he hoping that I'm going to take her. And I was just like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
this is exactly what I had said. So on the way home with the cat, I knew I needed to name her something that meant to be, or destiny. And upon some research, I learned of the word kismet, meant to be, and destiny, right? So this is my Kizzy, or my kismet. She follows me around everywhere. She gets locked into closets and
Oh my gosh.
all kinds of places. Super curious cat. So less than 24 hours, that one was manifested as well.
I love that example. And it just, to me, is such a reflection of life. And what are we saying? And I just had this conversation with a friend of mine right before we got on this morning, actually. We were
Okay.
talking about, and she said to me, I wouldn't phrase whatever I was saying. She said, I wouldn't phrase it like that if I were you. And I thought, oh, okay. And as we're talking, I'm thinking to myself, I think I need to reframe that a little bit, if I don't want, depending on what I want and I don't want, so, but I truly, I look at my dog now, who is such a mirror of me in so many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because build wise, and not that they always say you look like your pet, not that we look like each other, but I'm not very tall, but I have very long legs. I'm all legs. And
Okay.
he is all legs. Like, he's really tall. He's part border collie, but he's also part greyhound. So he has the height of a greyhound. So has boots, but he's very tall. So everybody is like, oh my gosh, he's so tall. And so he's built, but also personality wise, we're very similar. And it's just so interesting to me because he has taught me so much about myself. And I actually love that. Like, because I look at, the changes I've made because of him. He's very anxious. If I'm anxious, it's 100 times worse. And I've had to really kind of recheck and say to myself, okay, chill out, because it only makes him worse. And he has these habits. If he was a rescue, and had a quite traumatic, like, kind of early puppyhood, and he still will hide underneath the table. He's 11, and I worked with a dog behaviorist for many years, and he said to me, he'll probably never, that's probably something he will do forever. But it's just so interesting to me how much of a mirror of who I am. And I can tell, because if I'm anxious, I can see his behavior change, and I'll be like, sorry, bud. I'm so sorry. Forgive mommy, but what a great gift, because then then we get to say, okay, well, I want to be a better person. I want to, or I'm a wonderful person, but I want to, I'd love to not react this way, is a better way to put it. So, so, wow. And I'm wondering, you might be scared to manifest anything else.
Well, what is the intention of this next pet? What would you like it to, the characteristics of it? Is it playful? Is it hyper? Is it calm? Is it, what is it that you would like it to help work within you? What is it going to complement? So now that we've got this idea that we can actually manifest, even just like any other material need or resource, what is it that I feel like this pet could help me with, heal through? And what might that look like in my life for me to care for this pet as well, to care for it as this thank you, right, for being in my life. But be very intentional and playful with it, for sure.
I think I'm looking at it as you say that, because I think that I've thought about getting a second dog. Originally, I lost my last cat in last November. And so it's my first time in 30 years where I don't have a cat in the house, which is very strange in some ways, but I really would like to get another dog. And it's more for I want one, but it's also for my dog, because he is a dog's dog. Like, he loves other dogs, and he loved my cats. I mean, and he doesn't understand when we go to I go to my friend's house, and she cat sits for her daughter all the time. Her daughter, she brings her grandkitty, comes to visit, and and she has very small dogs. And it's so funny because my dog walks in and she's like, what is this huge thing? But he loves her, and he can't understand why she doesn't want to play with him. And because he grew up with 2 cats, and so he loves them. But I think for him, he would do really well with another dog. And so I have in my mind what I want that other dog to be like in personality, knowing his personality. Yeah. So, sometimes, then you're giving me ideas now of what do I want? Okay. What do I want to manifest? And so for our listeners out there, If you don't have a pet, do you want to manifest one? And if
Mhm.
so, like Bonnie so beautifully said, what do you want it to be like?
Yeah. Yeah. And is there a place in your life that you feel needs to be more harmonious? And how might this pet help with that, aid with that? And it, you know, play with it. If you're saying it and you're wanting it, kind of follow through with it, because this nudge could also be um, what I would believe a spiritual nudge, a guidance. If there's this, and it's not just once, but maybe a few times you've been aware of it. Well, okay, so I'm aware that there's a pet. What, okay, if I could create the personality of this pet, what are the conditions? You know, and just kind of be open with that as well. But yes, for sure.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that just as you look in your life, like what do you want to obviously, that's what you talk about probably a lot with your clients. Like, what do you want to manifest? And I think of, my most recent, manifesting, which, all of a sudden there were all these signs that it was like, things started to fall into place that were
Yeah.
just like the likelihood of like it was supposed to happen. You know,
Uh-huh.
I was moving. My friend said, "Have you ever thought of, coming back near me?" My friend the with the who cat, has a grandkitty. And I said, okay, well, I went back and I looked, I found a house. I had it like, it was just like this, all these things that kind of fell into place like that, like within like the shortest period of time. And then I was like, oh, okay, part of me was like, is this what I really wanted? And then the other part of me was like, but all these pieces just kind of one right after the other
Yeah.
like happened. And then you're like, okay, well, like that's why I think I said, even if you don't totally understand sometimes, it's kind of like, okay, well, this is supposed to happen for some reason. And I'm not quite sure how the whole thing's going to play out, but
Right.
it's going to
Yes.
play out.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. But and I think that pets, sure, they help heal parts of us and they add value to our life and joy to our life. But if you are willing to kind of pull back and look at your relationship with your pet, the way you take care of your pet, the way you respect them and love them, if your pet were to be also encouraging you to love and respect and care for yourself the same way, how might you be able to create something different in your life? Oftentimes, our relationship with ourselves isn't up to what we feel would be desirable or what it could be or what we know it like. I don't want to say should be, but what we're feeling that it really needs to become to improve the overall quality of our life. So if you were to just kind of look at your pet maybe offering you this space, see how you care for me, now do this for you too. And let it be this co-creation with your pet. And just be, like you said, really reflective. How you notice that your dog would get anxiety as you got anxiety, and how might this reflection help even support and strengthen your relationship with your dog, because now, or your pet, because now you are also caring for you the same way. How might things change?
Well, I know that on a very practical level, many of the lifestyle choices I made were for my pets originally. They were not for me, and I think that I always equated to people like I use the example. So when I was about 11 years old, my mother stopped smoking. My mother was a smoker. And she said she couldn't tell us not to smoke if she smoked. Like that's the way she felt. So she
Yeah.
stopped. And I have made lifestyle choices in my home or for myself. And those lifestyle choices, were originally for my pets. And then obviously I benefited, So for me,
Yes.
I remember the biggest one was when I decided that I was going to make my home green and I was going to take all the toxins out of my house. That was like one of the things I did. And originally I didn't do it for myself. I
Okay.
really did it for my pets. My cats were counter cats. They would get on the counters all the time. which means I cleaned them all the time because I couldn't stop them. And I was like, okay, I realized a long time before that I could tell them to get down, but they weren't going to listen to me, and they were going to go up there anyway if I wasn't home. So I kind of decided not to waste my breath. And I remember I had sprayed down my counters with some sort of cleaner. And it was wet, and I went to grab a rag, and one of my cats jumped up on the counter, walked right through it, went and sat down on the opposite side and started to lick its paws. And I remember thinking to myself, this can't be good. Like, he just got a whole dose of whatever chemicals were in that. And it then kind of freaked me out. And I was like, okay, I think I've got to get rid of everything that might be dangerous for them. And the same thing is when I cleaned the floors, it was kind of like, ooh, what are they being exposed to? That's in my floor cleaner. And that's when I slowly but surely just started to get, start to leave stuff out. And obviously I benefited too, because to me, if it was harmful for them, then it would be harmful to me. And so on a very practical level, I was like, so we make lifestyle change. And so I've made a lot of lifestyle choices based on them. And maybe because I figured like they're like my kids. And I think we do that when we have people in our lives that we love. We make choices sometimes for them, and not necessarily we do it. It's for us, but we're doing it because we love them.
Yes. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So this was so much fun. And thank you so much for getting on and joining us. And I look forward to having you back. And if you get another pet, like, you'll have to come back and tell us.
We do have the one other dog I didn't mention yet, but I'm five people, 5 pets. I'm feeling like we're okay for a while.
We're okay for a while, right? Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much, and I'm so glad that we took this time together.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts.